Welcome back to the Crypto Fitness channel. I'm Jay, aka a pure Hexcobar, and today I'm going to be joining the Telegram chat, and we're just going to be having some discussion, paying attention to getting people's questions answered on Hex, Pulse, PulseX, etc. So let's go ahead and kick this off, and let me get my display capture going here. Let's delete that. Yes, we'll add this. Display capture, yes. Okay, let me change the size of this. Should have done this beforehand. Alright, got the right size. Now let me bring the picture back in, as well as my layover. Okay, we should be good to go. So I'm going to join this chat. Joining now.
Be a PulseX branded website.
And if anybody has any questions, feel free to post the questions in the chat.
It will look similar, but it will be different.
If you have questions about PulseX or Hex, feel free to ask, and I will answer. We'll answer or get the answer for you from the Telegram chat.
If you delegate PulseX the same way,
all right, I will post that in the chat. I'm going to pin that message.
No,
okay.
You're making a category.
All right, and I will be releasing a video probably sometime tomorrow for my Hex ladder snowball strategy. I'll explain what that is, what it entails, and my personal strategy of what I'll be doing once the Pulse chain comes out to build the most efficient ladders possible and get the most gains, as well as being able to have the ability to maneuver as well. I'll explain everything in my video. Currently working on it now. I'm just eating, so I'm going to be doing this quick stream while I'm eating, and then after I'll be working on the video, so it probably will only be maybe a 10-15 minute stream, and then after I start working on my video, or after I finish it, I will stream again later.
Which would basically generate you passive income using your PulseX.
thanks, Meta.
No problem.
Hey, Madeline, can you just elaborate, with like being a liquid provider? Like, what's that exactly?
Hey, I got a question.
Hey, Marco, just give me 1 second. You're up next, man. What was that, Jason? You were asking about liquidity provider?
Headphones.
Yeah, like,
there we go.
Can you just go as a newbie? I'm kind of new to that term, I guess. But if you're a liquidity provider, what's that exactly like? If you're providing liquidity?
Yeah, so you would need to take two different cryptos, go to PulseX, and in the PulseX exchange, let's say you take your PLSX and you take some Pulse, and you say, I want to be an LP provider. It's going to say, okay, well, how much PLSX do you want to use? And let's say you used $1,000 worth. It would tell you, okay, we need to put $1,000 worth of Pulse in as well, because it has to be the same exact USD value on both ends. You'd submit it.
Yep.
It would give you an LP token, and then you would earn transaction fees for being an LP provider, as well as a rewards token that's yet to be named in PulseX, which would provide you with a passive income as long as you're an LP provider. So what that does is it provides liquidity to the chain so that people can make swaps in that specific pair that you're providing liquidity in. And then when you're done, pull the LP token and you get your original coin tokens back, potentially more on one side than the other if there's some impermanent loss or not. But that's a whole other story, and you need to look up LP providing to learn about impermanent loss.
Yeah, no worries. I haven't really used Uniswap before, so like PulseX, what's it gonna be it for? Like, what's gonna be its main purpose? I know you're swapping with coins and stuff, but like, because I never really played with Uniswap before, but so PulseX, what would it do exactly if you've got particular coins? Swapping from one to another, similar to, like, for example, similar to if you have in your Metamask wallet when you swap, let's just say ETH to Hex. I know it's different on the wallet there, but is it kind of similar like there, where you're just swapping?
Yeah, I mean, PulseX is a token, the same as Uni's a token, or Cake on Binance is a token. It's a token with specific use cases, and you can use it to do multiple things. It's also going to be a token that is your DAO token, which gives you voting rights on, and you're basically, you own a piece of the DEX. You have the ability to vote on certain things and earn income with it. So you can swap it for anything on. You can swap it for anything on the network. Marco, what was your question?
And Lord, I was just wondering if there was a way to verify that you sacrificed correctly.
What did you sacrifice?
Are you saying what did I sacrifice for PulseX? PulseX?
Yes. What crypto did you sacrifice?
Just USDC.
On Ethereum?
Yep.
Yeah, so just give it a little bit and go to pulsexlead.com, put your address in, and you'll see your sacrifice pop up.
I actually did it the first day. I was just thinking about it. I was like, damn, I need to check to make sure if I verified it.
pulsexlead.com.
Super. That'll show everything.
Okay. Revolution, do you have a question?
Oh, yeah. So back to the liquidity providing. So say you're already providing liquidity on an ERC pair, in Ethereum. What happens when the bridge, when it bridges over? Do you have to remove your liquidity before the bridge, or how does that affect it?
Yeah. So what you're talking about isn't a bridge. You're talking about before the fork. So if you're providing liquidity, if you're providing liquidity as an LP provider through the fork, what's going to happen is your liquidity is actually going to be harvested, and your LP token on Ethereum will actually end up, when you go to remove it on Pulse, you'll end up with none of the PRC essentially, and a bunch of Pulse on the other side. So if you're providing liquidity on Ethereum through the fork, you're basically going to end up with Pulse on the other side with the LP token.
Yes. Yeah.
Karster, do you have something to say? You keep unmuting.
No, sir. Go ahead.
Are we going to keep this group after the launch? Big respect, you guys. Nice one.
Gonna be crazy.
Yo, Mandalorian.
What's up?
You advise keeping some loose hex around, or just go ahead and stake it?
I don't advise anybody, man.
I think
what would Mandalorian do? Let's rephrase it.
It's, you know what? I'll be honest, man. Right now, it's difficult to make those type of choices, because this is a it's a one-time event, this fork, and it really is contingent 100% on your situation and what you own and how much, man. You know, so you can't answer the question, Marco. You just can't.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I was just trying to see where you're at on it. What's the game plan?
Did you sacrifice for Pulse?
Edgar.
I didn't catch Pulse, but I caught PulseX on day one. So
You own Hex?
yeah, oh yeah. Some of it's taken. I just got another bag at like 18 cents, but I'm wondering if I should keep it loose or stake it. Again.
Well, what's the reason? What's the reason why you would keep it loose?
Swap for something. I don't know yet.
You're going to swap out of Hex for something else.
Can you swap the Pulse? Because I don't have any Pulse. Can you?
Yes, you absolutely could swap for Pulse. If you ask me that, I will not be doing that. I will not be swapping one Hex for Pulse. I'll be holding all my hex, and I'll be holding all my...
The ERC hex, I think, is going to be valuable.
Well, they're both going to be valuable, but if you're trying to swap something into Pulse, my personal strategy is to hold ERC20 tokens, not hex. I categorize hex in itself, even though it isn't ERC20. I categorize that in a different. It's all on its own. So I'm going to be taking positions in specific ERC20 tokens, getting copies, and swapping all that into Pulse, which will be free. And because it is free, I actually will be swapping immediately. The second that the chain goes live, I'll be swapping all those free things into Pulse immediately. I'm not going to care what the rate is. I'm just going to immediately just push the button.
Yeah, I think that's the smartest play.
Hey, Mandalorian, care to share your ERCs you're bringing?
No thanks, man.
We've been getting to get him to tell us that forever now. He's not moving on that.
Man, Lauren, are you going to watch the ratios for the first couple days?
Benji, what's up, bro?
Are you going to swap?
Yeah, so I'm not swapping anything. I'm not swapping anything. The only thing I'm swapping is my ERC copies that I get for free into Pulse the second it goes live, and then I'm just going to watch the fireworks show.
Are you a god?
Oh, there's only one God, and I'm not him. I can assure you that.
He's pretty close.
What kind of question was that, man?
Nope.
For me personally, every 24 hours, if I have liquid hex, I'm like, look at what I missed out on. All those early even stakes. So I stake everything. I can't. If I get more money and buy more hex, I just stake it because that's the best method. Because I keep getting more of it. So every day I'm DCAing by this T-share rate.
What's your shortest stake for? You just building the ladder?
I think I should check because I put this up on the fence. I don't stare at it every day like I used to. It's there maybe like 6 more months before, but I'm in that over halfway point where I just could take an early penalty if it goes to $6 or whatever. You know, I could say, hey, it might crash back to $1. So if I pay the $2,000 early in-stake fee, then I just take it.
That's the only reason I see having some loose hex would be good. I mean, you never know if it moons, and then you want to sell a little bit. And then
right, but that's why you play like 18 months
and then
out,
buy up
and
some
you don't
hex
think
again
it's
and
really going
resync
to
it.
moon it within the next 9 months. Or you don't get so much money, you don't care that you're...
Hey, Mando, could you explain to Marco about when he gets those copies of those ERC20s, it's better to be in one that's not going to have a high liquidity going through it to mess up your pulse ratio?
No, I don't agree with that at all, actually, Benjamin. The characteristic for ERC20s that you want to hold through the fork are ERC20s that have a lot of liquidity, not a little liquidity.
What if we jump it into the pool scenario that you talked about? You want to jump into a pool that doesn't have everybody jumping into it.
Well, right, but that's a whole different situation. That's a different category of conversation, right? So if all of us are in a helicopter and we jump into the Pacific Ocean, is there going to be a big splash? No. If we all jump out of a helicopter into my pool in my backyard, there's no water left in my freaking pool. Okay? So that's the difference. What I'm saying is if you're going to hold ERC20s through the fork, you want to hold ERC20s with liquidity, because the liquidity is what's being copied over, and Pulse is going to be put on the other side of the pair at a 1.2 million X ratio difference. So the point is that you want to be swapping, if you're going to be swapping one thing for Pulse, a PRC for Pulse, you don't want to be doing it in a pool where there's shitloads of people swimming in that liquidity, jumping off the roof into the water. Basically, the water's the liquidity, right? You want to be swimming in liquidity pools where there's very little people swimming in that pool. Where but the problem is that with Richard Hart pairs like the PulseX, the Pulse, for example, I believe that the PulseX to Pulse pair initially is going to be like if you all are at my house and you jumped off my roof and cannonballed into my pool all at the same time. Well, the water is just going to come straight out of my pool, man, and the water blasting into outer space is basically ratios. So that is different compared to if it's just me and my wife having a nice night with some wine swimming back and forth in my pool. And that's what I want to be swapping out of. I want to be swapping out of liquidity pools where it's just me and my wife or me and my lady. I don't have a wife, by the way. That's the difference.
Isn't that what I was saying?
I got a question about that.
On that then?
Right. So you opened it up where you said that you didn't want to be in a pool with a lot of liquidity, but the exact opposite is true. You want the more liquidity, the less volatile that pool is.
I think Benjamin's point, he just phrased it incorrectly. Probably his meaning was that he didn't want to be in something where everyone else is in, like the traffic of people should be low.
Well, Kismet, I mean, I get it, but like, we can only go off what people say, right? So
yeah, correct. I was just, it was for Benjamin to make a correction to my statement, if I understood it correctly.
I got a question on that stuff. So, assuming that like what you're saying is right, I think it is. But if Pulse is starting to get traded before the bridges from that big analogy you made from like the PulseX to Pulse pair, isn't that going to increase the ratios? Like obviously it's going to increase the ratios from PulseX to Pulse, so it might be lopsided. But isn't that also going to affect the rest of the liquidity pools? Like if you, let's say for example, you wanted to trade Chainlink to Pulse, right? The fact that you have all the people trying to trade PulseX to Pulse, doesn't that also increase the ratios of a Chainlink to Pulse swap?
It does in the sense of Richard's law, Hart's law. I mean, if something is paired to Pulse and Pulse is going up, right? It tends to pull something up along with it. But ultimately, the way that it works, if you have a shitload of people dumping one thing into another thing, right, it favors that other thing big time in the ratios. So it will affect the price in that thing compared to any other thing. But what you have to focus in on is it's not every other pair. It's the pair you're specifically trying to swap one thing for another thing, because you don't really give a shit about what other pairs are doing unless you're using those pairs or swapping in those pairs. You know what I mean?
Right. But so what I'm saying though is like the fact that you have all these people jumping off the roof into the pool in one pool, right? That to a degree, that's also going to affect the price of Pulse as a whole for other pools, regardless of the fact of what other pools they are, because there's that big supply and demand, right? There's a lot of demand for a supply, right? So naturally, it may not be as skewed as the PulseX to Pulse pair because that's where everybody is, but the fact that they're there making those swaps also will increase the ratios because of demand for other pairs. Even it may not be that drastic, or am I getting that wrong? I mean, is that incorrect?
Well, if somebody came in and they were in a different liquidity pool and the opposite was happening, if somebody was dumping a crap load of Pulse for the other thing, right, in that specific liquidity pool, it would be the opposite. It would be inverted. So it will be very interesting to see the dynamic between Hart's law as Pulse goes up against every other thing in liquidity pools. But ultimately, it's all completely contingent on that liquidity pool and what the ratios are between those two things.
So, quick question: If you say has Dogecoin or Shiba coin or whatever coin, like a shit coin that has a lot of liquidity because there's a lot of it, and no one else was using that would be that's what you're talking about, right? It's something that no one else is using that has a lot of liquidity.
So there's thousands of ERC20 tokens that when we fork Ethereum, they're all coming over, right? And currently in Uniswap V2 and in SushiSwap and OX, there's all these pairs with ETH on the other side, right? So when we fork them over, there's thousands to choose from. And so there's going to be Pulse on the other side of all of those PRC20s. Once it's all said and done, and the FixerBot does what it does and injects all that liquidity into PulseX, if you held that specific ERC20 token through the fork, you'll be able to swap into Pulse or whatever else you want, right? The point is that do you want to be swimming in a liquidity pool where there's thousands of people swimming in that pool trying to get at that other thing in that pair? Or do you want to be swimming in a liquidity pool where there's barely anybody swimming in that pool, swapping that PRC into Pulse inside that pair? Because
so you want to be in an obscure coin that just is obscure.
You want to be in something that has a lot of liquidity or enough liquidity, okay, so that it's as close to the original ratio that was set as possible when the chain launched. So that's only possible if you're swapping a PRC for Pulse in a liquidity pool where there's not a lot of people swapping at it. There's not a lot of people swapping that thing for this thing.
So it would be a coin, like or a token that no one else is swapping, and that has a lot of liquidity.
I'm not saying nobody else. I'm saying that, look, at the end of the day, there's the Richard Hart tokens are going to be the most volatile pairs to be swapping in and out of early on, by far times 10. Okay, they're going to be the most volatile pairs to be swimming in. So, number one, when you hold ERC20 tokens through the fork, you're getting those PRCs for free, right, guys? They're free.
Yep.
So I don't have to worry about so much about, the deal I'm getting if I'm getting them for free because I didn't have to do anything. There was no economic energy really to get those. Secondly, to be able to swap those free things for Pulse at the beginning, do I really need to care that I'm eking out every possible X out of that swap? When I personally think over the next 24 months to 36 months, we could see thousands of X on the coin.
So if you had a coin, like say CoinMarketCap was correct, like they weren't being, gate kept, and the top 100 coins on CoinMarketCap, if you picked a coin that was the top 100 on CoinMarketCap that no one else was picking, that would be a good coin.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be a top 100. It just needs to have enough liquidity for you to swap that thing into Pulse once we launch. That's it.
All right, so then any of those top 100 will probably have a good liquidity, right?
As long as it's an ERC20 token. And it's a legit token with plenty of liquidity that we can fork and put Pulse on the other side of the pair. And when you go to make that swap in PulseX, you're not going to be swimming in a liquidity pool with thousands of other people trying to run the same swap.
So it was a four. Say it was a four. I mean, I know we talk a lot about market cap, and it doesn't really mean anything. But say it was like a $4 billion market cap, and it has a lot of volume or whatever. So that coin probably. And it's something that no one else really thinks about. Probably that would be a good coin, right? Because it's a coin that it's a traded coin that has liquidity, but it's not like a top coin that everybody's gonna be thinking about.
I think you've got the gist, brother.
All right. I'm trying to speak in reading between the lines here. You know what I'm saying? You're not telling me nothing, but I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So bro, you want to be in a place that has a lot of flexibility but doesn't have a lot of attention on it.
Yes, you're exactly right. And I'm literally giving away the farm. I'm giving away the farm. You say I'm not telling you anything. I'm giving away the farm, dude.
They want you to paint by numbers.
We want to know what you got. We want to know what you got, man. We have to do what you do.
He's never telling you that. He's not going to tell you that.
I mean, the second that somebody that's respected in the community comes on here and tells you what they're doing, what do you think's going to happen? Everybody that heard that, they're all going to go to the same fucking thing. And now we're all cannonballing into my pool together, right?
Yeah.
That's the exact opposite of what I want.
Yeah, no problem, David. Yeah, I mean, I love PulseX, man.
I want some
I'm
fine
super
women
excited
in my
for the
pool.
opportunity,
That's
man.
it.
I'm super excited for
I think
the future of PulseX, PulseChain.
has some flaws, and whoever
I think it's going to give
is
the
thinking of
the
that
retail
pool analogy
investor
needs to be
a
careful
huge
because
advantage, right?
If you think of it like jumping into a pool, then you're thinking of Pulse potentially as that pool, but the liquidity comes from the coin that you started with. So it's more like adding water to a pool.
There's a new live video of Richard up right now.
Let's not confuse people, man. Some people don't have a complicated brain. So the simpler we keep it simple, stupid.
I'll post the link in the chat again.
Thanks,
I think a lot of people don't know what liquidity is. So there's.
So let me give you an example. When Pulse launches, there's going to be a PulseX/PLS liquidity pool. So there's going to be PulseX tokens on one side, and there will be PLS on the other side. It will initially start at a certain ratio, and then immediately that ratio will not exist anymore and will be in constant flux. If you are swapping, if you have hundreds or thousands of people swapping from PulseX to Pulse, in my opinion, it's a perfect analogy of people jumping off of my roof into my pool, and that water that exits my pool and goes into the air is the slippage you're going to encounter and the ratio degradation that you're going to encounter when you go to run that swap. Okay? Because if everybody is doing the same thing in the same exact pool with the same exact pair, it's going to heavily favor the other thing that everybody is swapping into. And so you could end up with a worse ratio rate than you wanted to by the end of the time you get that swap. Because, and I've seen it 100 times in project launches. I've literally lived it. I know what I'm talking about. So unless you've been a part of a lot of launches and you've been sitting there on Uniswap waiting for the red light to turn on, you just don't know what you're talking about. And I'm not saying that anybody here doesn't know what they're talking about, but you can literally watch the rate go up exponentially in seconds. And if you were part of that, you can end up with a horrible rate. So it's better to be swapping for something that you want out of a liquidity pool where there's not a lot of people and a lot of liquidity, as opposed to swapping out of something where there's a shitload of people and a lot of liquidity.
It's certainly possible. I was really reluctant to buy Hex and avoided doing so. I'm in strong on PulseX. David, I would highly recommend that you look into Hex and learn more about it if you don't know much about it. That, in my opinion, that is the strongest asset that Richard Hart has created. Hex is going to be like, it's like the Bitcoin of the Richard Hart projects, right? It's the first. It's had the most track record, and really, we're just speculating on PulseX and Pulse Chain. I believe in all three, and I think all three are going to do great. It's specifically Pulse Chain, but at the same time, Hex is really like when I make gains in PulseX and Pulse Chain, I'll be rolling a lot of those gains into Hex and staking with Hex. So I'm not. I mean, I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm just saying, learn if you don't know much about Hex and you're kind of like wary about it. Just do more research on it. Watch more videos on it. Go to there's several websites you can go to. Namely, let me show you.
So that's a default setting. Like you have to provide that on the other side.
There's several websites you can go to. Like
the point I'm making is that
some of these Hex chart
a lot of
websites.
People, like literally
you can go
100,000
Hex ladder is like we'll show you how to do ladders,
and,
a staking ladder.
60,
and if you just type in like Hex
that missed the pulse sacrifice,
Hex charts, right? Type in Hex charts into Google.
Even though we can say that
you can look at a bunch of different charting, like some of these down here. Real-time data, hexinfo.io is a good one. Hexgraphs.com is a good one. Go there and just look at the graphs and look at what it does, right? The use case of Hex.
So
and
my
that way you're more informed, because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be doing the strategy that I'm talking about, where if you make gains in PulseX or Pulse, they'll be rolling them over into Hex. And a lot of people are getting into PulseX and Pulse Chain because they want to get cheaper Hex.
Means that I don't have a cost. And number two, if you want Pulse, those liquidity pools will be far less volatile than trying to swap out of liquidity pools where there's literally thousands and thousands of people that are trying to get into Pulse who got onboarded into Pulse by PulseX. That's my point.
So if you have $2,000 or something, like whatever it is, as long as it has liquidity, that $2,000 is going to be worth more Pulse than when you're swapping it, because of the ratio is better because no one.
Yeah, no problem, David. I mean, it's like I'm telling you, man. Like Hex, the boat's still here, man. Like
it's not that
there's going to be two versions of Hex. There's the Ethereum version of Hex and then the Pulse version of Hex. And the Pulse version of Hex is going to be in price discovery once we hit Pulse Chain launch, because Pulse Chain has its own chain and it's its own thing, right? Its own asset. So it's going to be in price discovery. Like it's not going to be trading for the same price as Hex is at currently. So I mean, in my opinion, I think it's going to be a great opportunity to get in. But obviously, you can do what you want with your finances. Not giving financial advice. I'm just telling you. I'm just sharing my opinion and my testimony, I guess, if you will, testimony about
for the
Hex.
maximum amount of PRC. On
So
the other
just take a look at it more, just learn more about it. It's literally like a revolutionary concept that will revolutionize the world. I honestly think it's the next Bitcoin. It'd be like, to me, in my opinion, buying Hex now is like buying Bitcoin back in 2010. Right? If you had just held your Bitcoin back in 2010 and you just held it to today, you would literally, you didn't sell a single Bitcoin, you would be up like millions of X, right? I believe that Hex is that same thing. It's the next big thing.
Yeah, they start at a zero USD value, but there's a value in ratios for tax
your friend is probably
purposes
very,
and all
very
that.
wealthy at
They're
this
gonna
point
have
too,
a
by the
zero
way.
value initially until a bridge connects, and then you'll have a USD value associated to them, but you'll initially be swapping in ratio format.
Right. I mean, my thoughts are going on what PRC20 conversions would be kind of like fastest moving in their intrinsic value to gain the most Pulse or PulseX from those three tokens. I mean, I'm totally with you. I mean, what an amazing thing to do. It's just to prep that properly. It's just the thought goes on. Could you just maybe before you go, just kind of go into what would give those copy tokens the fastest moving value to get the most value in exchange for Pulse Network tokens? Because I want to do exactly what you're looking to do, is just accumulate and hold.
Yeah, so I don't need the token to go go up in value or anything like that. I just want to get as close to the original set ratio that the fixer bot set it at, and that's it. So I'm not looking for anything to go up in value because I got them for free. I'm just looking to swap my free tokens into Pulse at a ratio that was as close to the original set ratio. That's it.
So would you say then lower price coins that are quite popular might be a smart choice?
The main thing is that you want to have enough liquidity, and for me, tokens that nobody's talking about Pulse, communities aren't talking about Pulse, everything's getting forked over.
If I want to sacrifice
and,
PulseX and just want to hold or
be
sell a little
invalidating the
bit
token,
when it launches,
with
what would you
administrative
recommend me
keys.
to do?
That's why I don't mess with stable coins.
Yeah, Mike, it's hard to say. I mean, I'm not going to
so
give you
just
financial
make sure that,
advice. I'm not going to tell you what to do per se.
They're all getting
But
forked
for
over.
me, I'm not going to be selling anything once Pulse Chain comes out. Personally, I'm just going to be holding and waiting for the mayhem to clear because I believe there's going to be a lot of volatility. So because of that, I understand that you're wanting to take maybe some profits because of that volatility. But for me, this is like a long-term thing. Like this is something that I'm looking at over the very, very long term, the next decade or longer. So
you just
to me, this is just
completely. You're talking about
I'm just like a buy and holder, and there's lots of game strategy that you can do, but I'm going to be taking that opportunity when it gets volatile to actually buy more. So that's just what I'm going to do personally, but I'm not sure. It sounds like, I don't know if you sacrificed for PulseX yet. Let's see. If I want to sacrifice PulseX and just want to hold or sell. So have you already sacrificed for PulseX?
The ERC20 token, and then there's Ethereum on the other side of the pair. So when you go to Uniswap and you're swapping from one thing to another thing, there's that thing, and then there's ETH on the other side of the pair, right? You just want to have a real ERC20 token that has actual real liquidity in Ethereum. That's it.
Okay, so it's linked to what's going on the Ethereum side.
Okay, so I mean, yeah, if you've already sacrificed for PulseX, did you sacrifice for Pulse Chain or just PulseX?
We're forking the liquidity pools in ETH, on Uniswap, on SushiSwap, and the like. So whatever.
So really, you want to get everything human possible that you can in as far as the ERC20 tokens, and have it on the wallet for the flash shot, really, for the snapshot, right?
Yeah. So any ERC20 tokens you're holding through the fork, you're going to get copies. And you will.
And do you have any hex as well, or did you just sacrifice for PulseX?
That's likely to happen, or
no, we won't know an exact day or time or block height. There'll be an announcement prior to the fork, but it'll be an arbitrary announcement like, "Hey guys, next week sometime the fork is happening."
Do you think it's going to be at least at the end of the month, though, or do you think it could be imminent?
No, it will be sometime after the starting of March on, because the sacrifice PulseX doesn't end until the 25th of this month.
Okay, yeah. So I really appreciate all your help. One last question. What's the ratio now? And is there any smart ways to sacrifice, any sort of angles or things to get into anything from an alpha point of view that you'd suggest? Because I've already sacrificed some, but I'd like to sacrifice some more.
I'm sacrificing every week for PulseX. I'm just dollar cost averaging in through the whole damn thing. That's the way I.
Are we losing a lot though in percentage?
Okay. So the first thing, do you have a hardware wallet, Mike?
It's okay. Maybe you miss a full X or two. It's silly. I mean, this it is what it is. If you got in the first 10 days and you're doing it all the way through up until the last, up until you have the 1.75 guaranteed rate. Before that, you're just adding to your multiplier. So, between now and before the 21st, you're just adding to your bigger pays better bonus. I mean, if you put in any type of legitimate amount, and if you need to know what that is, VBM, I just posted something in the group. It's the Google Docs for the multipliers. Take a look at that.
Okay, will do.
One quick question before you go. Is liquidity and volume, are they?
Yeah, so Mike, if you don't have a hardware wallet, the first thing you need to do is get yourself 2 hardware wallets. Trezor or Ledger are the best ones, specifically for Hex, Pulse Chain, and PulseX. The Trezor is going to be the go-to. So first thing you need to do, if you're just new into crypto, first thing you need to do is get yourself 2 Trezor hardware wallets. Once you have that, come into this the Telegram group, the PulseX.com Telegram group, the one that I'm in now. You can just go download Telegram and get into it, get in the chat here, and then ask how to set up your Trezor wallets for the most secure. Because the thing with crypto is the most important thing is security. If you don't have the security, then none of your gains matter. So you want to make sure you're protecting your assets the right way. So that's the first thing you do. As soon as you get those, come into this chat and ask somebody how to set up your Trezor wallets, and anybody in here will walk you through it. Specifically, there's a guy named Papa Boner. I know, it's funny, sounds weird, but that's his name. He's kind of like the security guy in the Hex community.
Okay, well,
and he has some videos on YouTube. You can YouTube Trezor hardware wallet setup and make sure it's by Papa Boner on YouTube. You can search that. He's got some videos on how to set it up. If you have any questions, come back in here and people can walk you through how to do that. That's the first thing you need to do. After that, then we can start talking about like what you're gonna do next. Game strategy, general game strategy. No one's gonna, or game theory. No one's gonna give you specific like financial advice. No one's gonna tell you to do something. And if they do try and tell you something to do something, they're probably trying to sell you something, or they're probably trying to take your money. So just make sure that you don't give anybody your seed phrases for your hot wallet if you have a hot wallet. And then as far as like sacrificing,
is there a place where they
obviously, I mean, Pulse Chain, if you don't really know much about the projects, I mean, you can always come in these chats and ask questions and learn more about like what they do and how to position yourself, what they do specifically, etc., and get some questions answered that way. But I mean, in my opinion, these 3 projects are like the best 3 projects in crypto at this time. There's a couple other projects I really like too, but these 3 projects specifically, I think, are going to do very, very, very well.
And thank you for answering.
So the fact that you're here early, I mean, you're in a great position.
You don't touch stable coins. Now that's kind of disconcerting for me because I thought that like DAI was decentralized. I know half of it is backed by USDC. What is your solution? Because if I can't take profits into DAI, like what else do I do? What do you do?
Take profits into Hex, bro, and stake it.
Okay, yeah, so besides Hex, yeah.
Yeah, so DAI, look, when it comes to stable coins on Pulse, can you mute? Yeah, there you go, Infinity. You must be walking in the wind or something. But when it comes to stable coins, there's going to be a few different things. But first and foremost, there's going to be the forked over stable coins, which none of them are going to be stable. Okay, none of them. None of them are going to be worth $1. None of them are going to be stable. But there will be bridged in. There'll be EUSDC. There'll be EDAI. There'll be stable coins that are bridged in that are stable, and then there'll be native stable coins in the dexes like USDL. So you will have stable coins that you will be able to swap into. I don't know how quickly after the fork, but probably pretty damn quickly right away.
Okay, so you were talking about Pulse.
Yeah, that's correct, Mike. Make sure you buy it from the manufacturer. So
I was just talking about like on the Ethereum side, like in other coins that aren't even.
Once you get that set up, I mean, it's going to be a lot easier to have conversations. But like I said, none of your gains matter if you're potentially compromised with the way you hold your crypto, or if a hacker can get into it. So that's like the first thing, the most important thing is making sure that you get your security in place first, and then from there you can kind of talk strategy with somebody, people in this chat. You can always join my streams. I'll be streaming this all the time, and or you can come follow my channel. I can answer questions for you as well.
What I want to hold through this for to swap into.
But this community is here for you,
coins.
man. Like, I mean, you just got to go to the right places. I mean, this community is one of a kind. So, like,
some of them have
even if you're
oracles
brand
that
new,
you
I mean,
call
nobody's
back
going
to
to treat you like an
Ethereum, and
idiot.
so
Nobody's
they're
going to
just
treat
not
you
even
like a
gonna
piece of
work
shit.
because
And
of
if they
that.
do, they'll get
Some
shunned
of them
for
are
it in this community.
collateralized,
So,
which means that
you know, you
they
can
can
always
be
come to
invalidated by administrative
the Telegram
keys,
chat
and if you
get a lot
held
of questions
that and they
answered.
invalidated your keys, you wouldn't even be able to make the swap. I don't need all that hassle. I would prefer to just hold ERC20 tokens with a good amount of liquidity and be swimming in a pool with the least amount of potential people, as best as I can guess. So that's the point. And Kismet, thanks for that, man. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. You have a lot of great insights in here, and I always appreciate when you're in here, bro.
Thank you,
Yeah, bro.
Mandalorian.
I'm really glad to be part of all of this, and every day I become more and more bullish.
It's becoming more and more bullish, man. I mean, this morning I woke up and Hex was being spoken about by Yahoo Finance on TV. That was freaking cool. Still
That's
such
sick.
early days, but we see the bridges live, using it. Testnet V2's live, validator rotators live, Uniswap's live, PulseX is live on private testnet right now. I mean, they're working it at a breakneck pace, man. I mean, they really, really are. For what they're doing, it's like people are like, oh, it's taking so long. But we've been waiting for Ethereum V2 for how long? Freaking years, dude. Years.
I'd rather them
Right?
take forever and get it right than get it out early and get it wrong.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Crypto. Like, for the speed at which he's doing it, we can go use it right now. I can use Pulse on testnet now. It's actually alive and is living. I can swap. I can delegate. I can do everything. Pulse exists already on testnet. It's not like a pipe dream. That's the most bullish piece, is that people are realizing now, holy shit, Richard's actually like one step away from launching this thing, and everything is live on testnet. So we didn't have that with the first Pulse Chain sacrifice. We didn't have any of that, okay? And so if that's indicative of, 40,000 sacrificers versus 100,000+ sacrificers. Now we have all of that, and people are realizing that, it was the people who sacrificed for PLS that really took the leap off the cliff of faith, because there was none of that when we first sacrificed. Now we have everything live on testnet. And Richard said today, look, there's just, there's the fixer bot. There is that needs to be tooled up. We have to spin up the sacrifice numbers, and the DAO. And that's pretty much what's left. So we're getting very close. And as you can see, I mean, everything's working, guys. Very excited, and I think that people are really realizing, holy moly. The last thing I'll say is, when people say, well, what about this blockchain and what about this blockchain? Well, what about them? They've been live for a year and a half now, a year. Nobody's using them. Why? Because there's nothing on them that anybody gives a shit about. It's not going to be the same thing with Pulse. So guys, I gotta take off. I gotta go take care of my son for a little bit, but we'll talk to you guys later, man.
Thanks, Mandalorian.
Have a good night, man.
Yeah, have a good one.
Mando.
Yep.
Can I ask a question?
But I do have to do things on my MetaMask. But do I have to do things on my MetaMask, or just have to wait until I receive the airdrop and then decide if I sell a little bit and hold the rest? Yeah, I mean, if you sacrifice from your Pulse or from MetaMask, if you sacrifice for PulseX from your MetaMask wallet, your hot wallet, You can sell, like, I mean, like you'll get airdrop your tokens in that wallet from whatever address that you sacrifice from, as long as it wasn't from an exchange. So once you get the airdrop, I mean, once you have the tokens in your wallet, yeah, like you can do whatever you want with them. You can sell them, you can buy more, you can do whatever. But in order to sell, you do have to make a few changes in your MetaMask wallet.
Okay, so the question is basically,
so you'll have to add the
Pulse
Pulse Chain mainnet to your MetaMask wallet, and there's videos on how to do that. Right now, it's just the testnet, so you can do that for the testnet. You can actually go on the testnet right now and do some transactions for like testing. But once the mainnet comes out, you will need to change a few settings in your MetaMask wallet to access the Pulse Chain. It's not that, it shouldn't be that difficult. It's like clicking a few buttons in your MetaMask, and once you do that, you should be fine. Then you can, sell, buy more, or do whatever you want. But again, Mike, before you do any of that, again, you like get your Trezor, your wallets, make sure you get 2 wallets, and get those set up before you do any of that, because again, like I said, security is the most important aspect of crypto.
I just knew, hearing that. So the question is like, and I have a family member who's a VP at the stock exchange, and I called them, and like, why doesn't everyone, like, why isn't this on NBC? Like, why isn't the world talking about this? If we're going to help with global warming and, get rid of mining and all that stuff, like, why isn't everyone talking about this? Doesn't make sense.
A lot of it's going to hurt the wallets of everybody else. And Richard, he's not doing it to do that, but it's gonna screw a lot of people over.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Whoever is not talking, can you please mute your microphone? Because we hear a lot of background noise and it's annoying. We can't hear what the person is actually trying to say.
I'm in a coffee shop. Sorry, that's me. I'll mute right now.
Because 2 wallets, Mike,
so yeah,
adds extra security. So you're going to have one that you actively use, and then you're going to have one that just literally stays cold. And there's lots of different things you can do with 2 wallets as well.
They have their personal reasons.
But watch the video on YouTube by Papa Boner.
They don't want to advise something that can backfire on them.
On the Trezor, and it'll explain it more in detail for you.
But time will tell who was right. The most important thing is to understand what you're in the middle of, understand the potential of it, and realize that once you put all these things together, I can go through a list of them, like I can go through a list of them, but basically people don't like either the founder, the ideas, the amount of supply that one entity holds, because they don't understand the reason why it holds it, and so on and so on. But like I said, man, time will tell who's going to be right and who's going to be wrong. But this is very different from the previous product that the founder released, because this has nothing to do
Mike.
with
anytime, brother.
Like interest, getting interest on your principles or anything like that. This has something to do with providing utility to the, so people who are in the market, if they have a product that they want to build, but they can't build it successfully because the fees are too high on a specific network, then they can come over to this network and produce a product that can be usable by people. And this is what is important. Utility is important. And those who understand the potential of Pulse Chain, they will understand that by the end of the day, it doesn't matter who the founder is, doesn't matter what, none of these things matter. The only thing that matters is, does something work or does it not work? And on top of this, is the ecosystem promoted by a free market? Are the principles by which the system is built on, do these principles promote free market, giving the smaller guy an ability to play in a big game? Like, all these things, they really matter.
We're solving a major problem in the market. You understand that with Ethereum, correct? This is a major problem that's being solved.
Oh yeah, believe me, I felt it coming in with all these gas fees. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, for what? So I definitely
all the users are. Yeah. Have you been to howtopulse.com yet?
Yeah, I just started on that yesterday.
Okay, and are you trying to give your network more information, or is this for you? Because you said you called that vice president, and what did he say?
It's actually my uncle, and he said give me a few days. He looked into it, and then my aunt called me, and I had to walk her through investing in it. So he wanted to get in on it. He had some folks look into it, and the amount I
they went in is not, it's not going to hurt either of us if we lose it. But based on the technology, like I said, I'm into technology. I'm an internet architect, so like, I can appreciate what his goal is here, especially in the deflationary part. Not mining things and global warming, and that just incredible. So I'm doing it to support the cause. If something good comes of it, and that's great. But yeah, he got in on it. So at this point now, I'd have to get a ledger wallet set up, and I think I'll be good to go.
Yeah, this community recommends getting 2 Trezor wallets. Okay, so you're going to want to order those right away from Trezor.io, and it's recommended you may want to do that for the other person that you were talking to. Okay, and then just keep coming back here and asking questions. And since people are sacrificing for PulseX right now, there's a really good guy that can articulate this opportunity very well, named K4K Crypto on YouTube. Have you heard of him?
Yes, I've watched most of his videos. I know a lot of you guys are on these channels too. I've probably watched all of your videos. I mean, it's basically been my life for the last week and a half. So.
Well, congratulations, man. Congratulations. Yeah. Welcome for one hell of a ride.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be great. Are you guys going to be attending the Las Vegas function in March? And there's something actually that I misread that. Maybe it was virtual. Might be thinking of something else. But there was a conference in Vegas. No?
Yeah. Eddie Allen's got a conference in March. I think it's like the first full week of March or something like that.
March 6th through March 9th.
It's actually on location in Vegas?
Yep. If you go to freedomtv.info, that's where you'll find the information. freedomtv.info. And that's Team Money, who's a big part of the Hex community.
And one last thing, that Trezor.io, it's recommended that you get 2 Trezor ones. They're the cheaper models, okay?
Yeah, 10-4. I'm actually on the site right now. Thank you, guys.
One last thing, if you live in the United States, there's a good chance that the purchase won't go through, okay? Because the company's out of Czechoslovakia and blah, 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 blah. So first, try to make the transaction, and if it doesn't go through, call your bank, get in touch with like the fraud department or whatever. The information should be in their system since you already made the purchase, and then on their end, they'll do what you need to do so you can make the transaction. And most likely, you'll be able to do it while you're on the phone with them after they do what they need to do. So be prepared for that if that happens.
And also, it sounded like you were kind of saying treasure, but it's Trezor. So he gets it when the first time. Trezor. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah, there you go, Mike.
Can
That answers your question.
The website for the meeting in Las Vegas, Nevada?
It's freedomtv.info.
Thank you so
much. Yeah,
much.
but that's the Hex convention. So there's the Pulse convention going to be in September. So if anybody's a Hexagon, yeah, go have fun.
Where's the
Pulsicans? I'll see you guys in September. Yeah.
September is going to be at the new. It's called PulseCon, PulseCon, and I think you'll find it on Telegram as well. But PulseCon.
It's the same. Freedom TV.
I think it's
they're hosting it.
Perfect. Thank you both so much. Thank you.
Yeah, if you pay with your Trezor with Bitcoin or with crypto, you don't have to go through that with your bank, right?
would say repeat that question again.
I said someone was saying like you'll have a problem with the bank because Trezor is out of Czechoslovakia. But if you pay with crypto, you won't have a problem, right?
Oh, of course, Bitcoin and Litecoin. You're good to pay with those.
All right, guys, I'm going to be shutting the stream down for now. I'm going to be working on my video, so I'll probably be streaming a little bit later as well once I'm finished working on my video. So make sure to subscribe, like, follow, share, all that, right? And if you want to pump your own bags, even more of a reason to like and subscribe so that we get the word out to as many people as possible. Okay, I will see you all soon.
In the future,
Deuces.